to be here and to share. It's a great pleasure for me to be here with you and share information about free English language resources. Just today, I'm planning to share this information with our Fulbright fellow, who is now in Osh State University, but he's from United States, Biadun Adeo. And, как сказала Махаббат, сегодня у нас будет презентация на двух языках, на русском языке и на английском языке. Я коротко проинформирую вас о наших программах, о наших ресурсах. И Биадун, который является Fulbright Fellow и работает сейчас в течение 10 месяцев в Ожском государственном университете, он расскажет и поделится информацией на английском языке. Ваши вопросы могут быть как на английском языке, так и на русском языке. Так, ну, начинаем. Угу. Так. Угу. Сейчас, минуточку, я поделюсь экраном.
Вы уже поделились, мы видим ваш
Всё,
экран.
все видят, да?
Да.
Здорово. Спасибо большое, Махаббат. Немножко бывают технические какие-то проблемки. Так, как уже Махаббат представила нас, мы сегодня будем рассказывать о бесплатных, я бы хотела подчеркнуть вот это ключевое слово, бесплатных ресурсах по улучшению навыков английского языка. Ребят, вы все подаете на программу обмена, поэтому, конечно же, английский язык нужен, и если его нужно постоянно практиковать. Так вот, есть уникальная возможность не искать в интернете, а можно воспользоваться ресурсами, которые предоставляет офис программы английского языка совместно с посольством Соединенных Штатов Америки. Называется этот ресурс American English. Так, ну, прежде всего, я хотела бы остановиться, так как в основном здесь молодые люди, которые хотят участвовать в exchange-программах или повышать свои языковые навыки через онлайн-программы. И первая программа, на которой я хотела остановиться, это программа Open MOOCs. Это Massive Open Online Courses. Это программа, которая предоставляется также офисом программы английского языка и дает не только преподавателям, но и студентам, и всем, кому интересен английский язык. Следующие топики, они сейчас, курсы проходят по этим топикам, по этим темам. Так, вы видите, наверное, да? English for Journalism, English for Business, English for Science Technology. Мы обычно называем это английский для STEM. И English for Career Development. Так, кто может участвовать в этой программе? Любой желающий, кто хочет, и кто мотивирован, и кому нужны эти знания. Так, что нужно будет сделать? Нужно пройти по ссылке, которая представлена ниже. Я надеюсь, что все видят эту ссылку. Найти интересующую вам программу, выбираете эту программу, заходите, читаете требования внимательно и регистрируетесь. Все, больше ничего не надо, конечно, и ваше участие. Так, если вы участвуете, эта программа, и ваше участие, ваш перформанс был около 70%, значит, вы получаете бэдж и получаете сертификат за участие в этой программе. То есть эта программа сертифицирована. Ну, в качестве примера я могу привести вот Learn English for Journalism. То есть английский для журналистов. Программа регистрация открыта с января 2001 года до декабря, 17 декабря 2021 года. Так, опять точно так же, как я вам сказала, вы можете пройти по ссылке и зарегистрироваться на эту программу. Так, кто предоставляет эту программу? Эту программу предоставляет офис программы английского языка. То есть эта программа, она образовательная программа. Так, следующий ресурс, который мы рекомендуем абсолютно всем, кто интересуется английским языком, это American English Website. American English – это большой ресурс, который предоставляет офис программы английского языка. И он состоит из нескольких структур. Первая структура – это веб-сайт. На этом веб-сайте вы можете найти очень подробную информацию, какие материалы предоставляются для учащихся или студентов, или для тех, кто желает улучшить, кто начинает и кто улучшает свой английский язык. То есть начиная от американских песен, заканчивая планами уроков для преподавателей английского языка. Так, как я вам уже сказала, что это The American English Website, то есть вы заходите по ссылке, можно через Google найти americanenglish.gov, и полностью вся информация появится у вас на экране. Так, как я говорила уже, что этот ресурс, через этот ресурс вы можете познакомиться с культурой Америки, можете найти книги, которые вы можете прочитать на английском языке, или это будут аудиокниги, музыка, карты, видео, фильмы и мультфильмы для детей. То есть, в принципе, этот ресурс, он используется, начиная от детей школьного возраста, заканчивая взрослыми. То есть в зависимости от уровня английского языка вы можете использовать эти ресурсы. Помимо этого, вы можете определить свой уровень, и после того, как вы определяете свой уровень, вы уже находите тот материал, который подходит под ваш уровень английского языка. Так, вторая структура American English – это Facebook. Я бы очень порекомендовала American English Facebook. Для чего? Для того, чтобы получить информацию о конференциях, о каких-то новых программах, о каких-то ресурсах. Также на American English Facebook информация меняется ежедневно, абсолютно ежедневно, и вы можете найти информацию, даже просто какой-то сайт по американским, скажем, идиомам, или найти друзей по переписке. То есть, в принципе, если вам нужен английский язык, можете смело заходить в American English Facebook, регистрироваться и пользоваться этими ресурсами. Помимо этого, на American English Facebook регулярно публикуется информация о каких-то конференциях, тренингах, семинарах. То есть есть возможность подать и поучаствовать. Следующая структура American English – это YouTube. То есть вот этот ресурс, наверное, мы рекомендуем абсолютно всем. Почему? Потому что здесь вы найдете очень много видеофильмов, песен американских, и так вы можете пообщаться с теми из других стран, те, которые изучают английский язык. То есть это уникальная возможность попрактиковать английский язык уже даже с носителями языка или с теми, которые изучают английский язык в других странах. Следующая, это уже подструктура American English, это Voice of America. Ну, все, наверное, знают, и я думаю, что многие уже пользуются, может быть, многие из вас пользуются этим, но я хотела бы все-таки немножко обновить вашу память и вот коротко рассказать об этом. Voice of America, здесь этот ресурс идет и для преподавателей, если среди вас есть преподаватели, и также для тех, которые изучают английский язык. То есть вы выбираете какую-то тему, та, которая вам интересна, и заходите, смотрите. Если вам интересно прочитать какие-то книги, пожалуйста. Если вам интересно послушать новости Voice of America, здесь тоже есть архив, и вы можете найти любую новость. Ну, в качестве примера я вот этот вот хотела бы слайд вам показать. Let's Learn English. То есть, как я вам говорила ранее, вы можете определить свой уровень английского языка, начиная от beginner, level 1 и level 2. Если у вас pre-intermediate или advanced, то же самое, вы можете найти ресурсы для вашего уровня. Так, выбираете себе программу определенную, и по этой программе занимаетесь. То есть здесь уже вам будет предложены какие-то тексты по интересам, вы то также выбираете, или вам будет предложен какой-то дополнительный материал, который вы можете также использовать. Так. Здесь я хотела бы тоже отметить ресурсы, через которые вы можете найти более подробную информацию по программе английского языка. Первое. Это, конечно, можно зайти на Relo Central Asia Facebook page. Это у нас есть офис программы английского языка по всем среднеазиатским странам, и находится он в Нур-Султане. Но в любом случае этот ресурс Facebook page, он предназначен как для преподавателей, так и для тех, кто интересуется улучшением навыков английского языка. Следующая Facebook-страничка – это American English, о которой я говорила. Если есть возможность, или, может быть, вы знаете, если вы не знаете, то можно сохранить и использовать это. American English for Educators Facebook page. Это для тех, кто преподает английский или преподает в каких-то частных школах и курсах. American English Teachers Corner. Как я вам говорила, American English, он предоставляет возможность и ресурсы не только для тех, которые изучают английский язык, но и для преподавателей. То есть преподаватели могут найти очень много информации, нужной и полезной, именно для уроков, то есть вплоть до того, что скачиваются планы уроков. Ну и последний ресурс, на котором бы я очень хотела остановиться и порекомендовать, это American English YouTube Channel. Это то, что я вам говорила буквально вот несколько минут тому назад. Вы можете практиковать английский язык с носителями языка, это первое. Второе, вы можете найти фильмы, индивидуально заниматься. И третье, наверное, попрактиковать произношение даже. Поэтому вот коротко о программах и о ресурсах для тех, которые изучают английский язык. Также я хотела сказать, для тех, кто живет в Бишкеке и в Аше, у нас есть шикарные ресурсы, которые это Fulbright ETF, это участники программы Fulbright, которые работают в наших университетах и ведут занятия в американских уголках. Поэтому, если есть желание и возможность, вы можете связаться с американскими уголками города Бишкек и города Ош и узнать расписание наших фулбрайтеров, записаться и участвовать в их программах. Спасибо большое. Если будут вопросы, я буду рада ответить на эти вопросы. А сейчас я хочу передать слово нашему Fulbright Fellow Абиадону. Абиадон.
Hi. Okay. Well, hello, everybody. My name is Abiodun Adeoye, but I just go by Abe, and I am the Fulbright ETA placed at Osh State University. So I'm here in Osh, which is south in Kyrgyzstan. Well, I'm sure you all know. And I teach English grammar and conversational English to my students who are in their first, second, and third year students. And I also have conversation hours, which are called talking clubs at the American Corner here in Osh. I think Natalia went over a number of good resources for learning English, and I really hope that you all took notes from that, because I think that with COVID-19 and transportation and going places gets a bit harder. I think that doing things virtually like this and looking at online resources have become the new way of learning English really well. But just to speak a little about what I do at the American Corner. So on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I have talking clubs for my students, and I develop a new topic each time. So we're either talking about cultural differences between the United States and Kyrgyzstan, or we're talking about like similarities and just certain issues and stuff that the students are very interested in. So yesterday, for example, I had a talking club where I talked about transportation in the United States versus in Kyrgyzstan, and I also promote a lot of the educational programs that are funded by the Department of State with the U.S. Embassy. So I do my best to inform the students about the different ways that they can continue learning English outside of American Corner and also outside of the university as well. And I think that conversation hours, which again are called the talking clubs, are the best way, a really good way of supporting students who are learning English. And I think that wherever you all are at, I'm not sure if you all also have talking clubs at your American Corner and your universities and schools, but I think that they're a good way to help students increase the knowledge of English by coming up with a new topic each time. I think the students are able to feel a little bit more comfortable practicing their English, speaking, and then, we all help each other and correct each other's pronunciation, verb tenses, and all of those things. So I think those are the best ways for students to learn English, and also just to continue taking advantage of these resources that Natalia has presented here. And also, if any of you are interested in the activities that go on at the Osh American Corner, I'm going to put a link in the chat box here, so you all can see the different type of things that go on there. I just put in the chat box here. So there's also Julia Dixon. She's also the other ETA who was placed at the American Corner here in Osh, and she works with a lot of the Access students and also has general conversation hours and talking clubs as well. So from Monday through Friday, there's a number of activities going on, mostly related to English speaking and learning. So students do their very best to engage with English as a whole. So I think that's really it that I'm really going to talk about. Are there any particular questions that you all have as it relates to learning English? And how are you all learning English in your different cities and oblasts and stuff? Anybody can please feel free to join in and just talk generally about your experiences so far learning English.
Ребята, кто-нибудь может поделиться своим опытом изучения английского языка? Можете как на английском, можете так и на русском. Если вы не можете говорить, вы можете тогда написать в чате.
Что ты говоришь? Я не понимаю. Мой русский чуть-чуть.
You mean me?
Yeah.
Okay, I said to the participants to share with their experience of teaching or learning English. So I said, please feel free to sharing your experience, asking questions, and also if somebody can't speak, can write in chat box.
Можно говорим английский и русский.
Супер.
Thank you, Abedon. Yeah, great. Thank you. Ребят, да, вы можете писать, можете говорить, как вам удобно. Abedon, probably just you can share your experience. Well, the question is related to, is it possible to learn English, to write words on the cards?
Yes, I think so. I think a great way of practicing English is to have flashcards and to learn new vocabulary words each day. So for me, I am learning Russian and Kyrgyz at the same time right now. And I have to say, I like Kyrgyz a lot more than Russian because Russian is so difficult and the grammar is so hard. But I think one good strategy of learning English is to write a new sentence in the verb tenses each time, because English is known for having a lot of tenses, which can be very difficult for speakers of other languages whose primary alphabet is not with the Latin alphabet. So I think using flashcards to practice vocabulary words and also watching YouTube videos where you listen very closely to what people are saying, I think can also be a great strategy. And also, if I can, I think I also want to share my screen so I can show you all something that I talked about with my students. So I'm going to share my screen really quickly. Okay, is everybody able to see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yes.
So what I'm going to do is play this.
That was mine.
Okay, so as you can see this video, this is a video on YouTube that's for English at the intermediate level for learners. So one thing that I think is really great about using the internet is, I'm not sure if you all already know this trick. So when you go to the settings in each video, you can click on that little wheel there. You can click on the playback speed on there. And typically it will start out as normal, and you can click on normal and you can slow it down. So I think this would be a really good resource for listening, for practicing your listening skills, where you can slow down the video to 0.75 or 0.5 or 0.25. So if you slow it down to 0.25, you will be able to, let's click on that and then press play.
I'm really sorry.
So are you all able to listen to that? you all can hear that audio? Yes, okay. Well, if you can't, you'll be able to notice the difference once you change the settings. So I think one of the good ways of learning English is by practicing your listening skills. And you can do that by watching YouTube videos and then slowing down the speed of the video to really listen very closely. And I think that's very useful because I think the best way, well, a really important way of learning is by practicing your listening skills, because if you can at least comprehend and understand something, you can begin to form some responses. So if you know the sentence structure, you will be able to know how to address people adequately. So I think a good way is to watch YouTube videos, to listen to what people are saying in the videos, and then also to slow down the speed so you can try continuing to practice your listening skills, because I think that's very important for English, which is particularly hard because of its sentence structure, the grammar, and the tenses. So yes, YouTube videos are really helpful. And yeah, absolutely. Yeah, YouTube videos are very helpful in learning. Because even for me, for example, so Russian and Kyrgyz are my fourth and fifth languages. And the other ones that I speak, one of the ones that I learned in 2019, Swahili, which is an East African language, I had to watch a lot of YouTube videos to practice my listening skills on that a lot. And I think with YouTube videos, my listening skills really improved a lot because it really forced me to listen very closely to what people are saying. So I do think, yes, YouTube videos are extremely helpful. And I think that's the one resource that everybody can benefit from, even if you're not able to travel physically to different locations to sit for 1 hour in a conversation. So yeah, something that you can do at any time, any day. Yeah.
Thank you, Abedan. It's really beneficial. It's very good point and tip.
So I have a question for you also. How many years have you all been learning English for? And you can write this in the chat box if you'd like. So the number of years that you've been learning English for. So like for me, for example, I've been learning Russian for 3 months. So I'm like, chut-chut. Great, 2 years, that's good. Okay. Anybody else? How many other years have you all been learning? 3 years, that's good. Okay. 2, 3 years, that's great. So with the number of years that you have been learning, what resources do you think have really worked for you to really help you improve? Because I know when you first start out any language, it's very like difficult and challenging. Like you don't know what you're saying at first, you're very lost and confused, but as you continue practicing, you start to form sentences and you start to understand what people are saying a little bit more. So in your years of learning English, what have you found to be very helpful to help you practice your speaking and your listening skills? You can write that in the chat as well. Good, that's good. Reading a lot of English books, that's great. Yeah. And I also think something that could also help with related to reading is by reading poetry. Reading American poetry can be very helpful. So a way of doing that would be, so Google again, like the power of the internet is really amazing. So English courses, that's good. You can go on Google, you can just search famous American poets and then read the poetry. I think poetry is a very great way of seeing the different ways that the English language is written and spoken, because poetry is very good because there are different styles of writing poetry, where some people write poetry a little longer and the others write a little shorter. So for example, if you read poetry of Maya Angelou, who's a famous American poet, you will get to read short sentences that are very vivid and are very detailed in the words that they use. And I think by reading poetry, you add to your vocabulary and you're also able to understand what people are saying in a shorter way. And I also think it can help you even come up with some new ways of writing your own poetry as well. So whether it's reading like just one stanza or one line or whatever it is, and then translating it into Russian or Kyrgyz and then doing that back and forth, I think would be also very helpful. So I think poetry is one good way of practicing your reading skills as well. Yeah. So I see reading a lot of English books, courses, that's great. So what like authors do you all read a lot? So are there any particular authors, like people who wrote books that stick out to you that you remember a lot? You can also write this in the chat box again as well.
Hi, hello, can you hear? Yeah, my name is Lola, and I just, it's easier and faster to reply to your answer than messaging, so that other people can have some time to type you the answer. Speaking of the authors you mentioned, I personally do not read that many books in general in English, but if I do, they are short stories. And the short stories like O. Henry and Somerset Maugham. Who else do we have? The Charles Dickens.
Oh, so, Charles Dickens, great. Yeah, he's a very famous one. Yeah.
So they're like well-known authors, I guess.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's good. I like that. And I also think, so thank you for sharing that. And I think another way to continue practicing your English while you are reading is also by writing in your books as you're reading. So right now I am reading this book. So this is the writings of James Madison, who was a former US president, like when America was still founded like a very young country, like almost 300 years ago. And what I do when I read is, if I can show you all here, is to underline and write in my book. So you can see here, what I do here, I underline here. So when you read something that like is very interesting to you, underlining is a good strategy. So you can remember what that person said and why it was so interesting to you. So I underline, and I also write in my book as well. So for example, this. So I write on the corners the things that I found so interesting. And if there's anything in particular that made me like that part of the book made me remember, I write it down. And then as I continue reading, if I find something else throughout the book that reminds me of something, I say, oh, great, I saw this on page 5. And now on page 345, I'm seeing it again. So then you start to make connections, and you start to ask questions, and then you start to look things up, and you start to read more. And I think that will also improve your vocabulary as well. So that's one good strategy. Reading and underlining and writing all over your book is a very, very good way to also continue practicing your English. And I think also try reading something in English for at least 30 minutes a day, if not 1 hour. So if you wake up in the morning and you want to practice your listening and speaking, and well, if you want to practice your listening and reading skills, you pick up a newspaper or a book or something that you have in English, read for about 10 to 20 minutes in that, and then go about your day. And when you come back, read again before you go to sleep. Because what I do every day, I try to read at least 50 pages a day, which is very hard, especially as a teacher, where I'm teaching like 10 to 15 hours a week, and I am doing a lot of grading, and I'm planning and everything. And then I also have my conversation hours and talking clubs, but I still find a way to read for at least 50 pages a day, which is a lot because my books are like 800 pages each that I read. So practice reading as much as you can. And whenever you have free time, sit and read for at least 1 hour, I would say. If you can't, just read a certain number of pages each day. I think that would be a good way as well.
Yep. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, that's a good point, actually, like taking notes in the books, especially only or if it is your book, of course.
Yeah,
that's a cool thing. Yeah. I actually have a couple of questions. May I ask you?
Yes.
The question number one is, how do you motivate yourself in learning? Because usually what happens is when you get one level of language, let's say intermediate, and then you feel comfortable with what you have, but you need to improve and go on. If there is nothing that you into improving your language, you do not do anything. So what personally for continuing learning the languages?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think a great way to motivate yourself to continue learning languages is by knowing the importance of the language. So for me, with my students, I think one of the greatest things that Kyrgyz people in general have is knowledge of more than one language. Because here, students speak Russian and or Kyrgyz. Most of them speak both at the same time, which is a very interesting skill to have. And then I also know that Kyrgyz and Uzbek are very close to each other. So by extension, if you speak Kyrgyz, you understand Uzbek. And I know Kyrgyz and Kazakh and Uzbek are very, very close to each other as well. So by extension, you also understand Kazakh as well. So the way that I help my students understand the importance of continuing to learn this language is by highlighting to them the amount of people who speak each language. So if you speak Russian, you are able to communicate with anybody in any former Soviet country, which is a population of about 300 to 400 million people. If you speak Kyrgyz and Uzbek and Kazakh, that's about 40 million people that you're able to talk with. And by extension, maybe 80 million because of Turkish as well, because Kyrgyz and Turkish are just a little bit similar to each other because they're in the same language family. So if you speak Kyrgyz, Uzbek, well, if you speak Kyrgyz, you understand Uzbek and Kazakh. And if you speak Kyrgyz, English, and Russian, the number of people that you're able to communicate with increases with each language. So what I did was like write the number of people who speak each language. And if you speak English, that's like 1.4 billion people right there who you're able to speak with. So imagine the power of being able to communicate with 1.4 billion people. That means if you go anywhere in the Western Hemisphere, somebody there, most people there speak English. If you go to the United States, that's 330 million people speaking English. If you go to Africa, that's over 500 million people speaking English. So that's a lot of people that you're able to communicate with. And by doing that, you make yourself more of a world learner, where you learn the similarities and differences. And you also learn to appreciate people and the world a lot more around you. And you're able to read things in more than one language. And I think it also does something really great to your brain, where you're able to hold so much amount of information in your head. And I think that helps you build up as a person. And it also opens up a lot of possibilities for studying and jobs and everything. Because me personally, I have a language goal of to be able to speak 10 languages before I'm 30. I'm at number 6 right now, and I'm 22. Well, next month I'll be 23. So I'm trying to do at least 1 to 2 languages, every year, so I can continue building up my knowledge base. So I think a way to motivate yourself is by reminding yourself the power of learning English and learning new languages and the opportunities that are out there if you know more than one language. So and also, like, each languages have very similarity to each other as it relates to the language group. So every language belongs to a language group. So English is like English, Spanish, French, Italian, like all the Romance languages are very, very close to each other. So if you know English, learning Spanish, French, Italian, all of that becomes a bit easier. If you know Kyrgyz, learning Uzbek and Kazakh becomes easier. So think, if I speak one language in one language group, learning the other ones in those other language groups becomes easier. So with each new language that you learn, you're unlocking a new part of the world to speak with. And the more you can do that, the better of a person you will be. And I think the more interesting you will be as a person. So I think reminding yourself all of those things is a great way to continue motivating yourself, even when you're not in an environment that speaks that language primarily.
Yeah, that was really useful. Thank you. But the problem that happens next when we are saying that you can learn different languages. If you know one language, it will be easier to learn another one language. That is true. But what happens, especially with the languages that are from one language family, kind of like, let's say Italian, French, and Spanish. And if you start learning one of these languages and then continue with another one, most of the time you mix them.
Yeah.
Well,
And
that's
actually,
the problem that I have.
yeah. And I think, well, one way to not mix them up is by continuing to practicing via YouTube videos and stuff. So if you are learning multiple languages at once, or you know 1 to 2 languages in different language groups and families, watching YouTube videos and reading books and doing different things, and also having a conversation partner in that language would be very helpful. So if you can find somebody who speaks French, maybe from France or from any of the former French colonies in Africa, you will be able to at least speak once or twice a week in that language, and then speak Russian and speak Kyrgyz and speak English. So finding a conversation partner and also taking the time to read or listen to something in that language once a week, at least for about 1 hour in total, would be good. So I think practicing it easily would be very great. So if you can devote just 1 hour once a week to listening to French, and then Spanish, and then English, and then whatever it may be, I think it really helps you stay focused, so you don't like lose track. Because it did happen to like one of my other friends, like when we were speaking sometime, I think one of my students, when we were at the bazaar here in Osh, he was speaking to the seller, and the seller was speaking Russian, and then he was speaking to me in English, but then he got confused between Russian, Kyrgyz, and English, and he pointed to him. He was like, something in Kyrgyz. He was like, what? Oh, I'm so sorry. So I do understand that you can like get a little bit confused when speaking to people, like, what? Why was I speaking Russian to you when I should be speaking English? So I understand the confusion, but the best way to do that is by doing at least 1 hour of listening and speaking once a week in the different languages. And to answer your question, Biggie Mine, right? Yeah. What do I advise to prepare for TOEFL in 2 months? So I think, well, here in Osh, our American Corner has like TOEFL preparation books that students take advantage of. And they are all free, besplatna. And students read from those every day, and those are all free resources that students take advantage of. So if you're close to an American Corner in your city, I hope, I'm not sure if the coordinator from the Bishek American Center wants to jump in on this, if there are TOEFL books that students can take advantage of to read and to practice and prepare for that examination. So I think libraries and American Corners usually have these types of books that students can prepare from. So I think those would be good resources for sure. And also, if you can probably find online free TOEFL exams or sample tests, so you can start practicing what those exam structures would look like.
Thank you, Amelina, that you mentioned our centers here. And I would like to say that we have the American centers in every oblast, in every region of Kyrgyzstan, where you can find all the books, TOEFL, IELTS, GRE, GMAT for preparation. So it's absolutely free. And so come and prepare.
Yeah, just like the coordinator from the American Corners in Bishkek said, if you go to any in all the American Corners and all the oblasts in Kyrgyzstan, you will be able to find literary resources such as TOEFL exam prep books that you can practice from as well. And you can also, to add on to that, you can also look online for TOEFL sample test examinations and like TOEFL sample test questions, so you can kind of see what the test would look like, so you can start to prepare yourself for what to expect on the.
Dear participants, if you have questions, please feel free to ask.
Well, well, maybe a good way to foster some thoughts and discussions would be if everybody could turn on their screen so we can see each other. If you want to speak for about 30 seconds to 1 minute, talk a little bit about yourself, your experience learning English and your hopes and goals and dreams and aspirations for studying English, and what you want to do in the future. If you would like, you can just turn on your screen and just share something about yourself. Nazgo, Jazgo, Lola, any of you want to, Lima Don, anybody want to share about themselves? What your name is, where you're from, your experience learning English, and what your dreams and aspirations are for studying the English language.
Дорогие участники, может, вы поделитесь, кто вы, откуда вы, для чего изучаете английский, какие у вас цели, мечты. Если будет возможно, пожалуйста, поделитесь.
I guess they are not able to. I guess most of the participants are not able to speak, but they are able to write. So they are messaging the letters. But while they are messaging, I can very quickly say about myself. Well, I already mentioned that my name is Lola. I've been learning English since school. That's already 8 years. But the learning process in school was most of my skills that I have, I got from the university. So that was like 4 years of intensive English learning.
That's good.
And yeah, so why do I learn English? The main thing is that, well, everybody knows that English is the first international and the most popular language. Yeah, so I'm learning it because everybody speaks it, everybody can speak, and then I'm able to communicate with others. But the second reason probably why I'm learning it now, it's to help the society to get the knowledge of English. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to help teach a little bit of English to students and to help them achieve their goals.
Yeah, that's good. That's great. I like that. Yeah. And I'm learning Russian and Kyrgyz myself, so I can better communicate with people. Here in Osh, people speak mostly Kyrgyz. In Bishkek, I know it's more Russian than anything, but here in Osh, it's like 98% Kyrgyz, and you hear Russian like maybe once or twice. So I'm doing it for similar reasons as yourself, to help communicate better with people, and also to reach a wider audience. So I think those are good reasons and motivations to learning English. Yeah, that's great. Thank you for sharing. So does anybody else want to share? Well, I see Bigimai, she's from Osh. Oh, great. Maybe I've seen you. Maybe you're one of my students as well. Because I work with like so many people every week. So I see a lot of faces. So yeah, great. I like that. I don't know if as Izova, Guzira, let's go. Any of you want to share anything about your experience thus far learning English? We have about 9 minutes left, so.
Just we have only 5 minutes and we will finish well our session. That's why, well, try to use this chance.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, well, I think in the meantime, what I can do is, what you all can do is make sure that link to the Osh American Corner, the Facebook page, for any of you, if you're ever in Osh, or if you are in Osh, please make use of the resource. At my university, where I teach at the Faculty of World Languages and Cultures here at Osh State University, I always talk a lot about the American Corner, because I think it's the best resource in the city for students to learn English outside of the classroom. Because students always asking me, what can I learn? What can I learn? The library at the American Corner. And in whatever oblast you are in, there is most likely an American Corner there, and they have free resources. So anything that you want to learn with English, they're all free resources. Like you will not have to pay a huge amount of money just to learn English. I think the Department of State and the U.S. Embassy do their best to make English learning as comfortable and as accessible as possible for students. So I think please take advantage of the resources, and also the presentation that Natalia gave earlier today. I think that one has some really great resources for learning English as well. Speaking of which, Natalia, could you send me that presentation after this? Send to my email? Yeah,
Mhm.
thank you. Okay.
Sure, yeah, I will do it, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I think we're almost at time here. Well, I want to thank you all for coming today. I know a lot of people did not speak as much, but I hope that you all took something out of this as it relates to English language learning resources. I think there are really great ways of learning English outside of your classroom. And I think, and I hope that you all are able to continue your motivation for learning English, because I think it's a powerful language. And I think you are expanding your knowledge of the world around you by learning to speak English. So yeah, very, very happy. And I'm glad that you are trying to learn English through the United States, because I think the embassy and Department of State is very grateful about that. So please continue learning English for sure.
Thank you. Nice to meet you. Thanks.
Yeah. And
Thank
if
you, all
ever,
of you,
yeah,
for participating in our session.
absolutely.
Good luck. Thank you,
Yeah.
Abiodun, yeah. Mhm.
So
Well, thank you all. Have a
thank you,
good
dear
afternoon.
friends, for joining and being today with us. And also thank you, Natalia Dmitrievna. Thank you, Abiodun, for sharing your resource tips, presentation. That's very helpful for who learns English. So I think we can finish for today. And thank you for everybody. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Have a
Right.
nice day.
Bye.
Thank
Good
you. Bye.
afternoon.
Mhm.
Bye.
Bye.